Hello and welcome to another video from Writers for Writers at Libertad Communications. In this video, I'll give you everything you need to know about editing a PDF document using Adobe Acrobat. Having said that, it will also be true for most other PDF editors that allow you to comment on text like Foxit, etc. If you don't have a copy of Adobe Acrobat, you can download a free copy of Adobe Acrobat Reader that does actually allow you to comment on the text. We'll leave a link in the description. So with no further ado, let's go over to my work screen. In this video, we'll have a look at collaborating with others using PDF, what exactly we're doing, and we will compare paper editing markup to Word and PDF, and then we will look at using Adobe Acrobat or its alternatives. Then we'll look at getting the free copy of Adobe Acrobat, the Reader, how to find a comments tab, and looking at document security, making sure that you are able to interact with the PDF. And then we'll introduce you to how we at Libertad Communications use PDF Markup in order to communicate with our authors. And then we'll look at a very brief example to show you how we use Adobe Acrobat PDF to mark up for editing. So, with no further ado, using the PDF to collaborate with others, why do we do it? Well, a lot of times people use lots of different mediums in order to write. And for Scrivener, for instance, Ulysses, Word, Pages. And it can sometimes be problematic sharing that for somebody to have a look at that to edit it or comment on the document that you're using. So PDF offers a middle ground, a common denominator that allows people to share their work. Also, it does offer some security protections. To be honest, most of those security protections can be overridden if you have the software and the know-how, but more often than not, you're not going to protect yourself from a determined fraudster, as it were. So more often than not, it does offer some protection from casual deletion and corruption of your text. So those are the reasons that people usually use PDF, apart from the point of view of saving for signing and dating of the text in order to prove copyright. So ultimately, what is it that we're doing when we're editing? Well, basically, all we're doing is inserting text, deleting text, changing the position of text, and commenting on text. It can seem somewhat overwhelming when you first start having your work edited and have to deal with editors. It can be somewhat intimidating, but realistically all you're doing is using some kind of a language that you agree between you to communicate about inserting, deleting, changing the position of text and commenting on text. Now, to further elaborate on that point, originally, if you've been trained professionally to write, you will have learned some kind of a markup language, editing language, which is, to be honest, looks like Swahili or a mixture of Swahili and shorthand. It is a language you have to learn, and unless you are working professionally with an editor, it's unlikely that you will know this language. So Word offers a semi-automated way of dealing with marking up and tracking changes to a text, which is why at Libertad Communication, we kind of tend to use Word the most for editing because it's quicker, it's logistically easier, and it's easier for authors to understand what's going on and keep track of what's going on. However, PDF does offer a middle ground between classical editing a physical paper and semi-automated systems like Word. So PDFs are great, and what we've done at Libertad Communication over the years of working in technical writing and working with authors is to make it as simple as possible. Now, the thing is do you have to use Adobe Acrobat? Well, no, there are alternatives like Foxit, PDF Element, Sahada, and you can use other systems other than Acrobat, and they do offer various advantages and disadvantages that you really need to have a go yourself. I'll leave links in the description for the alternatives. However, if you don't have Adobe Acrobat, you can get a free reader from Adobe, and all you have to do is go to www.get.adobe.com/reader, and you can download a free copy of the reader. Now, assuming that you've got a copy of Acrobat or you've now installed a copy of Reader, when you open the program, you will have this view pretty much. In order to get to comments, you just go down here on the right and click on the comment icon, and you'll see here where the comments will eventually appear as we go forward. Now, if you can't comment, or it's restricted on your text, whichever document you've got to work with, if you go to File, Properties, Security, just make sure that you've been provided with a document that has no security on it and commenting is allowed. If it's not, you need to get in touch with the author and ask them to make sure that they save it with security off so commenting is allowed. Assuming that you have a document that you can comment on, we'll go forward. So here at Libertad Communications, we've broken it really down. We did have quite a few different options and codes that we used originally, but it is somewhat clunky, and we've tried to make this almost exactly the same as our system of notation for Word. So it will become apparent in a moment as we go through an example. We basically have an insert text cursor, which is a red chevron, and then we have the insert text cursor at the left hand side of a changed line to highlight to the author's eye that a change has been made. We have an underline in red for a wrong or misspelt word, and we highlight in text to put in comments, and we've pretty much restricted it to those options to make it a lot easier to work. So with no further ado, let's have a quick look at an example.
Post. Happy boy.
Okay, so looking at a practical example now. This is a couple of paragraphs from the Harvard Business Review, June 2015, A Better Way to Map Brand Strategy, which is a piece written by two professors from the Harvard Business Review. And it's a great example of business gobbledygook, where jargon tends to obscure meaning. So when you are writing something like this, you have to be very, very careful to keep it as clear as possible. So this will make a great example for us to go through so you understand the process of editing and the thinking behind it. And we'll have a look at what we do with PDF editing. As I've said, it's a halfway house between paper editing and editing with Word. So we'll make sure that we've got our comments on, and you can see the tabs that you've got at the top, which we've already looked at. The ones that we tend to use the most are the highlight, the underscore, the strike through, and the insert text, although obviously you can use whatever you want. You've got your comments on here, so we'll be able to follow along. And as I've said before, you've got basically a delete, which is a strike through, and I'll just undo that. And you've got a misspelt word, which is underscore, and obviously each of these you have the opportunity to make a comment, and then you can highlight and make a comment. So we'll go through this and you'll see better how this works and how we can make it as close to, if you haven't seen our video using Word to edit, make sure that you do, because it'll make this an awful lot clearer. But that being said, so we'll just have a look at these two paragraphs very quickly, and just we'll go through those basically 4 processes. So marketers have always had to juggle 2 seemingly contradictory goals. So far so good, colon, which introduces the second part of this clause, making their brands distinctive and making them central in their category. Now, because the second part of this after the colon is basically describing 2 contradictory goals, it would be better if this and was an or. So what we'll do here is we'll say, no, we want to get rid of that and we want to insert or. I had to think about it then. Okay, so we'll put in here, no, we'll put in or. And what we do to make this easier to see, because if all you're doing is deleting a comma or a hyphen, particularly a hyphen where you'll see in a moment where it just turns it red, basically, and makes it very hard to see. So we use the same end marks that we use in Word. We put in a red chevron at the beginning of a line where any editing has occurred. So that's that first one. Now, the authors have then basically elucidated, explained, detailed the contradictory goals that they're talking about here, which are distinctive or central. Now, they kick off with central. Now, it's perfectly fine to include the 2 explanations in the one paragraph, but it makes it very, very hard for the reader to read. We can't actually move anything in Word as we would in we can't actually move anything in PDF, although we would in Word. So what we tend to do here is put in new paragraph, just new para, and that tells the author is yes, we would like to recommend that you can push that down. Now, obviously, the second part of this is this distinctive brands. So we'll make a note there for the author, new paragraph. Okay, so that makes that clear. Then if we carry on reading this, marketers have always had to juggle 2 seemingly contradictory goals, making their brands distinctive or making them central in their category. Next paragraph, central brands such as Coca-Cola in soft drinks and McDonald's in fast food are those that are most representative for their type. Fine. They are the first ones to come to mind. Now, in British English, we wouldn't say that, we would say that come to mind. So we'll get rid of that and the 2 and insert that as a suggestion to the author. So that would read, and then we obviously will need to put in a chevron at the beginning of that line to show that there's something's been edited. So then we get to this, that would then read that come to mind and they serve as reference points for comparison. Then we get the next sentence. These brands shape category dynamics, including consumer preferences, pricing, and the pace and direction of innovation. Very clunky having the two ands so close together. You're kind of stuck with the pace and direction of innovation. You'll need to keep those together, but it would probably be easier to start the sentence with the first and, the pace and direction of innovation, and change the word order to make it read better. So we'll highlight these two ands and say, hang on a minute, might be better, and I'm just going to copy this across, save wasting your time. Copy this across from my master. So obviously here's one I prepared earlier. And we would post in there, two ands too close. Suggest these brands shape category dynamics, including the pace and direction of innovation, consumer preferences, and pricing. And that reads somewhat better. So much for that first paragraph. Happy with that. Then we'll have a look at nearly forgot. Don't forget, don't make the mistake I nearly did. Make sure that you put in your chevron there for that push down, and you'd also need a chevron there for the word order change. So there we go. That's in good shape. We'll move on to the next paragraph. Striking the right balance between centrality and distinctiveness is critical because a company's choices influence not just how the brand will be perceived, but how much of it will be sold and at what price. Then there's this awful M-hyphen there. And ultimately how profitable it will be. Very ugly, hard to read. So from a technical writing point of view, we want to make that a bit easier to read. So realistically, the and's redundant. We don't really need that. We can put in a comma. So we'll go ahead and put in a comma there. You'll see this will make sense. Just comma, happy days. And then we'll get rid of the and. Strike that through. That's better. Get rid of the M dash, ugly beast that it is. Now you can see the importance of putting in the chevron there to bring the author's eye to that point, and we'll put another one just in there. And we can see there that we've got a change. That would now read, striking the right balance between centrality and distinctiveness is critical because a company's choices influence not just how the brand will be perceived, but how much of it will be sold, at what price, and ultimately how profitable it will be. That's great. So, okay, so we've done deletion, insertion, we've done moving, and we've done commenting. So just as the other thing that you will come across is misspelled. Now, this was written in America for an American magazine, so it's perfectly fine to use a Z, a Z, but it would, in British English, be, just to show you for a change in spelling, we would use S analysed. So that really is all there is to it. We try and keep, as I said, we're trying to keep the annotation pretty much the same as Word, so it makes it a lot easier for our authors because the two systems are the same, so it doesn't matter if they're using PDF or Word to communicate with us on editing. It's perfectly obvious. As you can see, Adobe Acrobat is rather clever in that it puts all of your annotation and notes, all of your changes sequentially, doesn't matter the timeline, it puts it in according to line. So that makes it easy for the author then to just sequentially go through these and change the master manuscript. So that pretty much covers our use of here at Writers for Writers, Libertad Communication, our use of the PDF, Adobe Acrobat for editing. Really hope that you enjoyed that video, and more importantly, I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or suggestions, leave them in the comments below. This video is in fact a companion to our book, Writers for Writers, Complete Guide to Editing and Why You Need It, which is free to our friends from our website. So please just go to www.libertadcommunications.eu, send us a message and we'll email you a copy. So whatever you do, keep writing, and I look forward to reading your work in the future. Until next time, be well.
Post. Happy boy.